Welcome to Global Insiders Podcast. I am Ryan, the peripatetic one, bringing you information about opportunities relating to jobs, traveling, and any information that can elevate you to your rightful place in this thing called life. You can find more information and how-to methods on globalinsidersgroup.com. That is insiders with an S. And here is today's show.
Hello, insiders. Today I'll be continuing the show with Megel. The last episode was really riveting, and I can promise you this episode will even be more so, because now we will be talking about his experiences in the Middle East. And if you want to really learn about the opportunities, the golden opportunities in the teaching profession, this is the show to listen to. So continue doing what you are, but make sure that you have a pen and paper to take some notes as you listen to this episode. Enjoy.
Actually, I moved on. I got promoted in that school to second in department after about my second year in. And I got UK qualified as well at that school. So I got what they call the QTS. So yes. Now I was, marketable. Because before that I was working as what was considered an untrained teacher, unqualified teacher. So you get less pay. Now I was getting better pay. Now I was a qualified teacher. So I looked for another job because it's easy to move around the UK. Teach math, you can get a job. So I moved to what was considered a little bit better school. And I got a promotion as well as a second in department at the time. I did a year and a half at that school. Results were good. I was teaching A-level as well. And then I got a nice job. And I think I made a mistake on that job. Got a nice job as a consultant with the Coventry Local Authority, where I was what they call an intervention consultant. So I was working with about 4 schools that had real challenges across the local authority. And my job was to go into those schools and work with the leadership to look at strategies to improve their results. So it was really high level stuff.
So moving from teacher to administration wasn't really difficult.
Well, for me, I was in. No, you applied for a job if it came up, and if you had the skill sets and you had the record, people would promote you. Even though I was things would happen. Right. I didn't feel like. I mean, there are some jobs. You have to remember that I'm navigating in a particular kind of. In terms of schools in the UK, I wasn't in a lake or I wasn't in an ocean or a flowing river. I was in a pond. So it was just a set of. This is an era you could navigate and be successful. If I move into the lake, you might have a problem. Because these are more desirable jobs. You're talking selective schools, leafy greenways. They weren't serving estates, They were there was a UK system had a whole set of clear class system. I was teaching was considered to be the working class, but the working class in the UK did not work. These are people who depend on. This was the way it was, So then you had the next level, the middle class who would send their school kids to grammar schools, which were our high school system, the traditional high schools. And then you had another set of people who could send their kids to private school, independent schools. Yeah. And then you had people who could send their kids to boarding school. So there was a whole different
I just said stratified, very stratified.
Yeah, it's very stratified. So when I speak of the UK system, I'm speaking about the government system in terms of what would be the closest I could come to is our secondary school system before it became part of the reform school system. If you go to a secondary school, that is it, pretty much. Yeah. Yes. If you go to a high school, you're okay. I mean, obviously Jamaica reformed and tried to make all schools equal in some way, but that was how the British system was. And so moving through the system, if you showed any mettle, you stayed in a school long enough, you could get promoted. So as I said, I got this nice job in Coventry. Nice job, really nice job. I made my own timetable. I drive to school. I got travel expenses. I reported to the director. I was doing real high level stuff, but I wasn't ready for it because, you're dealing with a lot of, you're dealing at the top end. You're eating at the big table. But you are a man who coming from Jamaica, speak with a Jamaican accent. Yeah. You're a black man. Yeah. Yes. You have experience, you can solve problems, but you didn't have the paper experience. I wasn't the head of department. And some schools received me well. Some schools weren't sure what to do with me, you know?
Yes.
Some schools saw me as lucky to get this job. And so I didn't stay long in it. I spent only 8 months in it. And then I got my first head of department job. And that was when I had I got into a school where the results for maths was 17% at the time I got into that school. So 17% of kids were passing mathematics at the end of. And now we talk about results. By the end of that year, I shifted the result to 41%, which was massive. Massive. You're talking from a case of 1 in 6 leaving with math grade to a case of almost 1 in 2. Yeah.
What did you do? What did you do?
It created so much of a problem. I mean, I built a team. I really applied some real deep thinking. Some of the stuff I picked up while trying to solve problems in schools. But I created with my team, we built a number of systems to really support kids. So I started a breakfast program. That's the first thing, because I realized
because you picked it up, yeah.
Yeah. So we started a breakfast program. So we had toast and hot chocolate. And, every morning they'd come in early. And these are things I said to the head teacher. We need these things. They said, yes, we do it. It didn't cost much. We had big budgets for math. Big budget. This was a school that was considered to be failing, named by the Secretary of State for Education as a school that is a failing school in the country. He names 538 schools across the UK. And we were one of them. Yeah. Okay. So we were like the spotlight was on. So when I came in, I realized I had the resources to make the change. So I also implemented a lovely system. So one of the biggest problems that teachers face with math is marking. So we were struggling to mark because you're teaching your marking. So the Birmingham University was nearby. So I came up with an idea that why not pay students to mark? Let them mark first. So you're at the university. So we advertised and we got 4 students from the university. And they just tell me when they could come. So what happened now? We could do the past papers and then they marked it. And that led to us asking them. The only way they needed to do was mark the paper and then do a question by question analysis for us on Excel. So they mark and they said they get 2 out of 5 on Excel. So each question, they just need to fill that form in for us. And then we could analyze. So once they did it for us, I just take the Excel sheet and just analyze where the kids were failing, what topic. And then we give them more of that topic. So I took away that work from teachers of literally ticking and making a decision, is it 2 out of 5, and moved teachers to analysis of group behavior. Yeah. Okay. So we could see where the teaching needed the better focus. So this was a real, I think at the time, groundbreaking. To the point when the results came through, we had like A's and A stars. We had lots of A's and A stars. But not only that, we shifted the kids at the other end. You know what I mean? About 20% of our kids were getting A's and A stars, which was unheard of in my school at the time. You know what I mean? Kids, because we did a number of things. At the same time, I was a kind of person who would be willing to go and talk to people who were doing well. So I went to a number of schools that were considered to be doing well and talked to the leadership and said, what are you doing? And if the ideas worked at my school, I implemented them. To be fair, I had a school that was willing to give me a go because I always had ideas about how we're going to do this.
Yes.
So that worked. And we had the ministry coming in, the Department of Education, wanting to know what we were doing. To the point where they took some of our spreadsheets and said they wanted to show other schools. At the time, I called it the matrix.
Yes.
You know? So I said, we have the matrix in school. So this is how. And I had some plans to develop that at the time. This was 2009. I had some plans to develop that as a system, but it never mattered. It never developed, you know. I didn't move any further with the idea, but I had a plan to make it a private concern in one sense, but didn't develop that very, very well. So in the 3 years I was there, by the time I left, our results had moved to 55% as a standard, like settled at about 50 plus, which was considered to be great in the UK for math. Yes. For a school like that, but not only that, because the other thing, our school was maybe what they call a sink school. That school was considered to be a sink school, meaning if refugees came, when refugees come into Birmingham, refugees came in, they send them to that school. When if you're feeling out in other schools, this is the school you end up at. So we're getting not only kids from the estate, And when I say the estate, to understand the UK system, you have a big high-rise building, or 2 or 3 of them clumped together in one area. And pretty much all the kids come to school from those buildings. So you're talking like some 10, 12-story buildings. And these are owned by the councils. And the kids just are sent to school. School is free. And these people may be living for free in those buildings as well. Yeah. So the school is nearby and they come to school and they leave and they just go back into the building or they play football just around that area. So there's not much, traveling for them. Maybe 1 or 2 buses will come by to carry kids to another estate. So the nature of the school was like that. So we had a mixture of kids, but I quickly realized something, that even if the child doesn't speak English, that doesn't mean they can't pass maths.
That's right.
So we realized
it's a universal language.
Yeah. So I began to realize that I could get these kids to do math. And by extension, I could develop their English in that sense as well, give them something to be successful. So we had kids who came to the UK underneath trucks from Afghanistan. This was the nature of the kids we had. Yeah. Yes. Now, coming from a Jamaican background, I know that these kids already have the motivation. They were motivated kids. We had kids that we were sure were about 25-year-old, but they were lying that they were 16 and 15. Because that's the system. If you come in as a juvenile, the system. Yes. But what do? You can't prove any, there's no paper. But their attitude is mature. You could tell. I had kids but they wanted to learn. And then you have a teacher like me who willing to, spend hours after school with them. So we had that as well, that dynamic. Yes. And so it was always trying to be clinical with it, trying to figure out what does this particular child need. So our success wasn't luck. It was a lot of analysis, real analysis, strategies that I can tell you many schools could use even now. And many are using now, but they learned it later. This was in 2009. I'm talking 2008 going into 2011. I spent 3 years at that school leading that department. Eventually became a part of their leadership team by the time I left. Right. But it was small school.
I really, really love it. I mean, I'm bursting with joy. But just to stick a pin, because would you recommend teachers who are in Jamaica now who maybe say want an opportunity to go to Britain to teach? And is it worth it financially?
All right, here's the thing. You will earn more money.
Yes.
And you will be able to take care of your family. But it's a hard way to earn it.
Okay.
But yes, I would. The answer is yes. Yes, okay. I would. I would recommend it. But you have to have a thick skin. You have to be willing to take the kind of stuff you have to deal with in the UK. People swear at you. Your kids swear at you. Kids listen to you say something to them and do not even respond. They just look at you in the face and do the same thing again. A child maybe even look at you and throw their book at you while looking at you. You get what I mean? A child will look at you
and you can't do anything about it because that will bring in legal.
You cannot even respond. You have to develop the ability to just say you're a child, you don't know what you're doing, and deal with it using the systems that are in place. And be willing to be told as well that the system, this child, we can't use this on this child because this child is maybe single parent or no parents, is at a foster home and has been through a lot. Maybe both parents are in prison. You have to deal with it. You have to learn to recognize that these factors do impact on children learning. And so as an educator, you begin to realize that there are more factors than just determination, and more factors than just being born bright. There's a lot more that affect learning than that, maybe millions more. So, yes, I would recommend people to go because the learning experience is a big learning curve for teachers. But then there are the other benefits. I mean, I thought by the time I left the UK, I was a British citizen, which gives you an opportunity to really travel the world. Because then you don't have visa issues. And you learn a lot. You had professional development, which was continuous in school. So you learned new ideas. You learned about caring in a different way as well, and you really learned about the conditions that people live in, some real, slums and real. But then you also learn that any child who is given a focus can also succeed. So I'd recommend it to anyone as a learning, but it's a difficult learning curve. You have to have many people went back home. I am some of the ones who made it through. Yeah? And not everyone dealt with. Some people end up in situations that they couldn't avoid, kids pushing them and then push back the kids and then they end up,
Yeah.
So it's really challenging, but again, I am speaking about almost 20 years ago as well. Things might have changed.
We hope.
Yeah.
All right, nice. So, I mean, you didn't just stop in England. I mean, you went on to even bigger and better things. So let's get into that.
Yeah. So I wanted a different opportunity. So my school at the time, my school was small. So I said I really wanted a bigger school, So I applied for a bigger school, bigger pay as well. And because at the time I was traveling about an hour each morning to come to school. I was really driving a lot, morning and evening, to get to school. So I wanted a nearer school. So I ended up moving to a school. And I got into that school, nice, doing well. Results, I was charged with moving results again. They were getting in the 40s. So they wanted a better kind of result. So I got in and started to do the thing again, applying my assistant. But bigger department now, about 12, 13 teachers, which is a big ask. But bring the team together. By the time I was halfway through that, and I remember one morning at the time, we were starting to think, is this it, I was still driving about 35 minutes to school. We had our young kids at the time. Now we had 2 kids at the time, and things were tough. So we started to think, what do we do next, And so we made a decision. I'd say mainly my wife started to look for jobs overseas.
Yeah.
My only condition at the time was, listen, I am not going anywhere that I need to get a visa again. So you can't rule the US out, because when you're in the UK and trying to get a visa, you're at the mercy of the employers. Yes. So I didn't want to do that. And so I was saying, we started to look at places like Cayman and Bermuda, where you had a British passport. It was easy.
Yes.
And I think I personally wasn't really doing much of a looking. This was really my wife who was doing most of the looking. And I would just be getting emails to say you have applied for this or that, and I'm like, okay. So to be fair, I was doing very well in my new job, really well, my esteem was high. So I was just my first year and things were going well. So I was kind of like, maybe I'll need a couple of years in this job before I move, but you never know. And I remember we started to see a few things happening. She started to realize that if you go more towards the east, like Eastern Europe, going towards the Middle East, towards China, towards Japan, that part of the world, the jobs were offering different packages. They were offering you accommodations. They were offering you, flights for free. They were offering you benefits, lots of benefits, education for free. Some were offering gym membership and car rental and blah, blah. So we were like, really? So she started to pursue that, started to follow those jobs. And even then, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. But I remember one morning I was going to school. This was like in about March. I was going to school one morning and I had an accident. I just dropped off the family and I was rushing because I had to drop them off and then rush to get to my school. So I was driving on the road and the car flipped over with me. I remember. Oh, wow. Yeah, and that was really a moment for me. One of those days you get like an epiphany. I started to realize how easy it was for me to pass away. And I was planning all these things to finish 2 years here so and get through this. And it so happened that by the time I walked away from that with nothing, no injuries at all, but the car was written up. But I remember the car turned over on the side in the middle of the road. What I mean? And I was worried that I would die by a car just coming and hitting that car now, but I got out of that. And so I felt like I really needed to stop thinking about life as if it is always to be there. So when the first job offer came through to my wife, to Denise, and she said to me, Miguel, this came through. She sent it by email. I looked at it. I thought it was a scam. Honestly. I said, so how much money do we need to pay? Because they were offering, this was a job in Qatar. They were offering her free flights, gym membership, all the utilities paid for, flights to the country, tuition for the kids. Pay tax-free pay. So I said, I'm not sure that this is real. I said, are you sure? Yeah, that must be a scam. People trying to get you to send money. Because at the time, people would tell her, you win the lottery and all of that. So I said to her, write them back and let's check it out. This was in 2012. Let's check it out and think. And she wrote them back and they wrote back. But at the time, it was a job only for her. an English teacher. So I said, write them back and see if they will have a job for me because, I wouldn't be able to go and not work. Yeah. So we started to apply as a couple, which at the time we didn't know that being a teaching couple was more powerful than anything else. It's the most powerful.
I had no idea. Either.
In the international scene. And at the time as well, we didn't know that the international scene was so big. I mean, the international scene is vast. You're talking over 10,000 schools. We didn't know this. At the time, we just thinking, maybe we'd go to the school to teach English, and there weren't a lot of schools. So we started to apply as a teaching couple. And that's when the job started to come in. We realized that people were looking for people. And then she taught English, I taught math. So this was like the holy grail, of teaching to find a couple that can do these subjects. So we were literally we got a number of job offers in the Middle East because the Middle East packages were the top ones. They were really good. Yes. And we just chose randomly. We chose Oman. We just said any job that came through first, we're going to take it. And Oman came through first. So we were interviewed on Skype and they were happy with us. They offered us positions as well. And so we went to those schools. And that was when that international journey started, Yeah. So even then, I wasn't sure what was going on. Yeah. It was a lot of complexities, leaving security to go to Middle East, which was considered to be, volatile and terrorism and all of that.
I love the segue because, that is like the next thing. Like, what are the myths and, about the Middle East that we need to get rid of, that we need to kill on the show, right?
There are a lot of myths. And some of the myths, it's not a case of myth. The Middle East is vast. The Middle East is, you're talking over 100 million. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not one thing. It's a whole, I'd say, a mixture of things. You can't, you wouldn't be able to describe the Middle East in one word because you're talking two different, it's like about 5 different peoples and then another 100 different ethnicity going into that, There's a number of countries with varied histories of collaboration and competition. You know what I mean? So it's like when someone said they've been to Africa. Nothing to anyone who understands what Africa means. Or they've been to the Caribbean. As a Jamaican, we know that we are different from Trinidadians and different from Grenadians. But people would say, I've been to the Caribbean. Or they say, I have a friend from the Caribbean. And they'd assume that concept is universal. It means nothing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not even shared history. Because some parts were colonized and some weren't. And some were colonized by the French and by the Spanish. So when you're in the Middle East, the concept of the Middle East is difficult to even describe. You have to live it. So we moved into Oman, which we never knew of before. The only thing I knew about Oman was the capital was Muscat, because I was someone who was trivia, spent a lot of time reading in the library and so on. So I knew this, but I knew nothing of the country. I knew nothing more than the capital is Muscat. And so we landed. I remember when we landed, and Oman, at the time, its airport was like, in Jamaica, you come off the plane and you walk off onto the tarmac and then walk into the building. Yeah. So I remember we came in August. This is mid-desert somewhere.
Yeah.
And stepped off the plane, I remember. And I remember a wall of heat. It's like when you're hooked an oven, you know what I mean? And you didn't remember to hold your head backwards, A wall of heat, man. Hit you. I've never experienced heat like that before. We're talking heat that if you don't wear a hat, your head is going to hurt you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, man. So this is August 10th or 11th we landed. I think it's 11th.
Yeah. And when is the hottest day?
These are like July, August.
Okay, so you went. So maybe you even went on like a really, really hot day too.
Yeah, because June 21st would be like the hottest kind of time. That is when it's about of cancer. You know what I mean? So really hot time. You're talking about the solstice at that time. So really hot. So when you come to the Middle East that time, you're coming into the heat, real heat. You're talking, you'd never have experienced that heat before ever in your life. But the good thing about Oman is that everywhere is air conditioned. Your house is air conditioned. So here's the difference now between landing in the UK as a Jamaican in 2002 and landing in the UK in the Middle East. So we come off the plane. We have our visas. So they sort out the visas, everything. We came through immigration. You're coming out of immigration with your family. And there's someone waiting for you with your name and a name tag, holding up the name, the barkers waiting for us. Yeah?
Yes.
They picked us up. People took our luggage from us and put us into a vehicle. Yeah? Took us to a house. When we open the house, air condition is on, a 4-bedroom property. Yeah, we moved into this property, and air condition is on. Coffee is in the house, bread is in the house. You get what I mean? Someone left us. The head of school is there with us, talking with us, and saying, "Welcome to Oman. Looking forward to you." Blah blah blah. They said, "Okay, here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to leave you for a couple of hours for you to get sorted." They took our suitcase upstairs and all that for us, showed us around the house, showed us how things worked. Everything is in the house already. Then they said to us, "Okay, someone's going to come back in about 2 hours. They're going to take us shopping." Then someone came back, picked us up, took us to a supermarket, waited for us. We got our groceries, put it in a car, came back home. This was how it was. Someone came and picked us up in the night for a get-together with new staff. Next day, someone came to pick us up, took us all to school, including my kids. Yeah. Find an arrangement for the kids so the kids could play with other kids while we went through the motions. By the time the day finished, they had a car. A lot of cars were parked in the yards. We just take a car if you wanted. They rented a car for us for the month and, give us a map and say, figure it out if you want to. If you feel confident, take the car, drive home. You know what I mean? People offered to take us home so we could drive behind them. People offered to show us around. This is landing in a new country. Yeah?
Yes.
So by the first week, we were treated like we were out every night for dinners. We were at people's houses. It was if you didn't want to participate. You know what I mean? By about maybe a few months later, we had a housemaid. That was a life. And then you had kids who were, I was an Omani school, so it was all Omanis. And the kids were amazing. It's such a joy to work in a culture like this, I could give you so many stories. So we spent 2 years at that school, which was amazing. And then, but this wasn't the real international experience. This was just an Omani school with a lot of expatriate teachers. So lots of teachers from all over. So we were working in this school and we started to hear about a different school, which was like the top school in the country in international education, which was the school I'm at now. And eventually we got a job at that school after 2 years. And that's where we have been for the past 6 years. Now, this school is different. The school has 74 nationalities. The school, the kids, 50-something languages are spoken by different kids in the school. The school has been around for 30 years. It's an IB World School. First time we were coming into the IB. And system. So to get into the school, I was teaching maths and science to grade 6. Never taught that grade level before, But that was the offer. Pay was better. Conditions were better. We said, we'll take it. The kids would be able to come to this school as well. And so we came to ABA at the time. So been there for 6 years. In my first year, a job came up to coordinate the curriculum. And as a jungle tiger, I never know what the curriculum was about, but I applied. Yeah. And I got the job, which was a big shock in the community because I was new. It created a stir in the school, even on the interview panel, because no one knew that I would bring this level of experience. Yes. Yeah. So when I came to the interview and I started to share, similar to what I've shared with you, but really, because, we don't stand still. And, I am always looking at, I can change how a school function, looking at ways to tweak things, make it better, make it do things better. So, my work in that school is there right now. And years upon years, my changes that I've brought into the school are still there. I've learned to work in systems and learned to talk to, boards and talk with my line manager and get my ideas implemented, and people have learned to trust me and know, if I'm going to do it, if I say I'm going to do it, it will be done. In my school right now, I've shifted the curriculum totally because when I went there, they were doing the England exam. No, it's not being done there. I had to take that out, communicate with parents, communicate with students, communicate with teachers, communicate with my superiors, communicate with the board to get this change through.
So what do they have now?
We have the IB exams, the MYP exams, which is much more coherent, much more consistent with the program that we were delivering. But at the time, we were doing the IGCSE because that exam was there from the start of the school. Okay. So no one wanted to remove it. And in my first year, when I tried to find out why my program was having this resistance, people were saying, well, we have to adjust here, adjust there. So I said, okay. And I put it to the school that we need to eradicate this exam. And it met with some opposition at first, but I made the case and I continually made the case. And, you talk with people and you build the case by bringing people on your side and spending the time to explain what the direction, because many people will argue against something, But if you can explain to them where you're going, then sometimes they'll say, okay, let me see how it work out. It's that kind of visioning. I learned to do that as a way of bringing people on board rather than try to convince them to say, let's just follow me, man. Let me turn right.
Okay.
Just follow me. I normally say, I'll explain to you why. And so that approach has bode me well in getting my vision across with staff. Whenever I go to staff, I never go for a particular thing. I go with them with the idea that there's a vision that they're going to be a part of. So most of my changes that I start off implemented, get implemented because people just want to be with me at the point when we're there. This year, big change again this year. This year, I led a massive change in the outdoor education program. And that was a big work. Again, people are on board, So that's the way that I have, I'd say, developed, as I through the system. A jungle tiger, I say, I'm a jungle tiger.
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
Sense,
And I agree. All right. You touched on it a little bit, but the first thing is what really surprised you about the area though, about Oman and overall? You touched on it, but the people. Okay, the people.
People are amazing. It's hard to describe it. I have friends who come and visit now and they just say, boy, Miguel, you have hit the jackpot. The Middle East is, as I said, is a whole different set of people.
Yes,
yeah? So if you're in Oman, you're meeting Omanis.
Yes.
UAE, Emiratis. Different people have different cultures. Now, Oman is a very rich trading culture. So what you find in Oman is a mixture of people, and Omanis are mixed as well. A lot of Omanis are mixed with people from Tanzania and Zanzibar, because Oman used to trade and even operate like a slave trade. The past was between those countries. So when you come to Oman, I look Omani. Once I put on my Omani gear, I would pass for Omani. It's not even a question. Nobody would say, oh, you look different. I'm Omani by the time I put on my dish dasha or my musa. If I wrap up properly, I'm Omani and I speak a little Arabic. That helps as well. So my family is not lost in Oman. Yeah.
Okay.
So the other part of it, Omanis are peaceful people, extremely peaceful people. No matter what you hear happening in the Middle East, Oman is never part of it. Yeah. Okay. Yet we are right by it because Oman border in Saudi Arabia,
Yes.
And Oman border Yemen, and there's a war in Yemen right now. Yeah.
Yes.
But Oman is not involved. So what you find with most of the peace treaties that are signed, they're signed in Oman. So you'll find that Iranian people would come to Muscat, and anyone else, the U.S. government would come to Muscat, and they sign it in Oman because Oman is considered to be the neutral state in the Middle East. We're not involved in any of the Oman name has never been called on anything except for being too neutral. Yeah.
Okay.
So in terms of the people, in terms of the place that you live, once you get through the cold weather, the hot weather, from about September, it begins to change to the most beautiful weather you can have. The most beautiful weather you can have.
And that is from September to the next June?
Late September not June, to about March going into April. It is lovely. You can do anything. You just go outside, you walk around, you spend time, do everything. Everything is here. You don't miss anything. As a Jamaican, the only thing I can't get here is maybe ackee and pimento. Nothing else. You can get everything to buy. You can get breadfruit to buy here. You can get soursop. You can get everything. Sugar cane. You name it, we have it. Jackfruit. It is here. Yeah.
Okay.
You just go into any supermarket and take these things up. Yeah. So in that sense, it is easy to live in that sense. We have an experience right now where we have a bicycle that we want to get rid of. I went outside one day and I saw it by the gate. So I said, why is this bike outside? Who put it out? I thought it was the kids. It was my wife. She put it outside. She said she's putting it outside so somebody could just take it. Yeah?
Yes.
It has been there for days. No one is taking it. We go out, we don't have to close our door. Yeah? We can leave your car open. No one's stealing anything.
That's nice. That's nice.
It is as amazing as that. You don't have to worry. So when I move back, like if I go around, I'm unsafe. If you go back into Europe, you forget to close the car door because you get used to the idea of not even thinking about those things. You leave your mobile phone, anything on a desk, anywhere you come back, it's still there. So even in our school, if we find things that are lost, you don't even take it up, you just leave it. Because the person losing it is just going to come back. Kids come to me, sir, I can't find my laptop. or my iPad. I don't know where it is. I said, okay, it will soon turn up. It just turns up eventually.
I've never heard this about the Middle East before. I've never heard it.
The modernity is here. You know, you have the highways, you have the malls. Every shop you can think of is here. Every fast food outlet is here. You know, we're not missing anything. Nothing at all. We're not missing anything. So then you have the desert, you have the mountains, and you have the beaches, all beautiful beaches. So it is almost like you get a holiday as well.
Okay. All right. Just to touch on some important things other than what you're saying right now. So families, right? Of course, you say your family can move over. You moved over with your family. But for many parents, I mean, they are single parents, especially the females. So is it possible for females, a single parent female, to move over to the Middle East?
All right. So a female traveling alone can bring her kids. No issues.
Okay.
We have no parents like females like that. You know, they can, if they're teaching, they can come and bring their family with them. Where it gets a little bit tricky is the way the laws are set up here. Yes. So everybody is sponsored.
Yeah.
So in my case, my wife is a teacher. I don't have to sponsor her. But if it was a case where she wasn't a teacher, I could sponsor her as a male. I bring my family. On the other hand, the law does not allow a female to sponsor a male.
Okay.
Yeah. So even though she, in her own right, can come to the country and get a visa for herself and work as a female, the law does not allow her to sponsor a man. Don't know the
understood.
Maybe rooted in the patriarchy.
Yeah, understood. I understand.
But what would happen normally, though, is that the man would be able to get a tourist visa, being the fact that she is the wife. So what would happen? Most of the men would come and they'll maybe get like a 6-month visa or 30-day visa, whatever it is. I'm not familiar totally. Yeah. But they'll get a number of, and they would just need to go to the border, either fly to Dubai for a 1-hour flight and come back and then renew the visa each time. Yeah, and they could stay. Because the other thing is, it's very difficult to get a job if you're not sponsored in the country. You can't work. So males, it depends. Some people will luckily get a job, but it's quite difficult to get a job if you didn't come in with a job.
Okay, so even if so let's say you came over on a tourist visa, it's difficult to apply for a job and get a job there.
Well, the jobs aren't set up like that, you know. The jobs aren't set up like that.
I understand.
But if there's a job, you know, let us say you come over as a teacher, but your wife got a job, but you didn't get a job.
Yes.
And a teaching job manifests itself, then you maybe could get it because the school would then have to apply for your visa. That's different. Okay. But lots of people who come like that don't tend to be teachers. They might come in as maybe used to work in a bank and those jobs aren't available. Those jobs aren't available for anyone.
Readily, not readily available.
They aren't available for anyone.
Understood. I mean, all right. So quickly, without going into too much details, right? Many persons listening would love to know if it is worth it financially. What do you have to say to such persons?
It is.
It is. Okay. All right.
It is definitely. It's definitely because it's worth it because remember you don't pay for most of the amenities. You don't pay for your housing. You don't pay for your child's tuition. Petrol is cheaper than water.
Yeah.
It's not a big city. The most expensive thing will be your grocery bill. Yeah.
Okay.
And the things you pay for your kids. So yes, it is. Your tax-free income. It's tax-free income. So you save. It's whether it's how you use it. Yeah, you save. You earn your money. You don't have to pay for most of those things. Okay, so in the end, it is worth it. I mean, there are jobs which aren't worth it, and you have to work that out. You know, my experience here has allowed me to realize that some jobs aren't paying well.
Yes.
But if you're leaving from Jamaica to come here, it will be worth it. No question. Okay. No matter what job it is, it will be worth it. If you're coming from the UK to here, it's different because your expenses are different. You might have a mortgage there, you know, and the cost of living is more expensive in the UK. But if you're coming from Jamaica, you're going to be making 3 or 4 times what you would have earned in Jamaica. Simple.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
And saving that amount as well, you know, 3 or 4 times. You'd be saving more than your salary that you'd have earned in Jamaica, tax and paid bills out of that salary, you know.
Yeah.
You know, the minimum someone will be earning here coming from Jamaica, minimum would be maybe about 200,000, 250, 260 Jamaican dollars a month, minimum.
Excellent. Thank you for that.
360,000 minimum.
And that's the minimum. Thank you.
And that's tax-free. And that's tax-free.
And tax-free.
That's a minimum. That's like a bottom school that's just trying to find people for the cheapest price. The average is going to be somewhere like 400,000 Jamaican a month, easily tax-free.
Wow. Incredible.
So it's there. A lot of Jamaicans are coming over.
And the requirements really is the requirements is that you need one more time?
Diploma trained and have a degree. If you have a degree, your chances are greater. But more and more, I've seen people here without the degree. But if you have a degree, your chances are greater. Your opportunities are wider.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. Nice. Good stuff. So I know you're in the upper quartile of the profession regarding success. What do you think are the necessary tools to become successful in teaching?
Open-mindedness.
Yeah.
We're talking international education here. Willingness to learn. You know, teaching is not a job where you learn everything. The moment you get to that point, that's when you become a bad teacher. You know, how people learn is a continuous experiment. Yes. You know, new research in neurology begins to understand the brain more and more. And as a teacher, you're teaching the brain. You're not teaching any other part of the human body. You're not teaching hand. You're not teaching the mouth. You're not teaching the ears. It's the brain. The only part of the body that we engage with is the brain. And so we have to understand how the brain processes information. There are two powerful books. You know, one of them, a guy called David Suarez, called Teaching with the Brain in Mind, and another one, How the Brain Learns. These are powerful books, you know, that anyone who is in education should read before they begin teaching. Because when we teach, that's the only thing we teach to, the brain, nothing else.
Okay.
And if you're not thinking about that, and so you can modify behavior in that way, because you understand that stimulus, understand how you need to process information, you can plan learning in that way. That's the way that I'd say. And teachers who don't understand this have difficulty in the classroom.
You're constantly upgrading. So what are you working on now?
What am I working on now?
Yes. What are you
a number of projects. All of them about developing Megel Barker, you know, and being a source of inspiration for my family and the people who look up to me. My mother as well, you know, late mother, you know, and Miss Jones and people like, you know, it's just the way it is. At the moment, I'm doing my doctorate.
Nice. I like it.
I'm looking at that. Should be finishing this year.
Okay.
This year. So that would be a major milestone.
What's your thesis or your focus?
My thesis is looking at job satisfaction, you know.
Okay. All right.
Looking at job satisfaction, a fundamental thing in education. You know, most teachers have issues with that, but at the same time, they stay in the profession. So some of the things that will be, my further studies will look at why are people staying in a job that they are technically dissatisfied with, you know, try to understand that, unpick that, you know, but also what I'm looking at is really interesting for anyone who's interested in people and how they function, you know.
Yeah.
So, but at the moment, I've narrowed it down to MYP coordinators, which is a role that exists within the IB world, because it's an under-researched area. So I'm trying to just add some scholarship to that area and advance some of the recommendations for other researchers. So just filling a gap there. But I foresee in the future to really delve into this a little bit more and looking at it more from a teacher perspective and different type of teachers and so on to fully understand it. So that's my doctorate. I'm currently also going through my assessment for the
just hold a second. So you're doing it online or what?
I'm doing this in more way. It's hybrid. Both.
Hybrid. Okay.
At the moment, no, I am doing it purely because I'm just writing my chapters 1, 2, and 3 and sending them off and writing them back to me. So now it's pretty much all online. I'm also doing my ed teacher qualification in the UK That's my NPQH, they call it. So I'm in my final part of the assessment now. So when I finish that, I'll be qualified to lead schools in the UK and internationally. So that's another thing on the radar as well. So I'm doing a number of things, I'm doing other conferences now as well. That's something I wanted to get involved with. So working at a number of big conferences, ACD conferences, IB global conferences as well. I was presenting at the conference this year. I'm working on, and then I'm looking at some projects that I want to do myself. I want to start a magazine here and start I like a teacher magazine here. So I'm looking at a
lot of things.
Yeah, because I can't sit still, like that. Time.
Sure. All right, so you've taught us so much and all of that, but we just want to switch it a little bit because we'll be wrapping up in a few minutes. And make it a little bit more fun. So, do you get to travel for pleasure?
Yeah, man. Okay. That's one thing that international education hands to you because. So we go back to the UK every year because that's where we have our house, and that's where a lot of our friends are, and our kids have friends that they connect with. But what we normally do for every summer, we travel to somewhere.
Yeah.
So for the past 8 summers, we have really just racked up, pretty much anywhere that we want to go to. So we have,
And you're traveling with the family.
With my family, yeah.
Wow,
this is
awesome.
family travel. Okay, yeah, every time it's family. We've been Thailand, Cambodia.
Oh, nice.
We've been
please
Turkey.
List them all.
We've been to Italy, France, Spain, Portugal. We have just, obviously we've done the Dubai, we've done Qatar, I'm running out of places that we have been to. This year we were in Amsterdam, in Holland, So we have traveled. We literally will just say, where are we going to go this year, and then we just go because we book a holiday normally because we get about 8 weeks. So we tend to do about 2 or 3 weeks somewhere and then we go to the UK for another 4 or 5 weeks. So we have done it, we've really really traveled. But separate from that, work also has taken me to a number of places, With work, I have been to so many places with work as well. I've been to Singapore through work. I've been to Vienna through work. Trying to think. India through work. US. I've traveled, I've literally just been to.
And I want... Hold on, and I want to make a promotion for teaching right now. And the only job you have done in your life, really, other than let's say side jobs or whatever, is teaching. You have teaching as
teaching.
Exactly, teaching has opened up
teaching has opened up the world. I have not done anything else, just teach. And I'm doing this as a teacher. There's no limit to what I can do in that sense. I'm teaching, and I ended up in this. All over the world, literally.
What about someone who's saying, okay, he's a maths teacher. They want math teachers all over the world. They want mathematics teachers.
No, that's not the case. See, what people need to understand is that people need to understand that the international scene is similar to any scene in the world, except for the benefits. In the international scene, schools are just schools. They offer every subject, and 90% of schools are recruiting expatriates, meaning teachers who are speaking English. Because what you have is a clear bias in the international scene for teachers who teach in English, and Jamaica has that advantage. Our teachers are all speakers of English. Yeah. While, if you are born in France, you may not speak any English at all, yes. But we have that advantage in the international scene. So what you find when you come on the scene, the dominant people would be British, American, Canadian, Australian, New Zealand, South Africans. These are the dominant teachers. In any school, you'll find a vast number of teachers from those schools. And then you will start to see people who are learning English as a second language. So people from the Caribbean, from that background, have a distinct advantage to come into international teaching simply because we speak English already. We're educated, and we also have that resilience that can make you survive. Yes. Having said that, international teaching isn't a survival mode. It's really just being able to deliver quality learning, because you're talking about a different clientele now. You're talking about people who their both parents might be engineers and they're in a country because there is oil. And they want their kids to be doctors and lawyers and engineers as well. So you're working in a school where everybody in the school, all their parents the kids are living in families. Their parents are well off. They travel the world for holidays. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of.
So you just have to have confidence and have confidence in the skills that you have.
The skill set and willing to learn. The skill set.
Willing to learn.
I mean, you have to have that mindset, that you're going to come into a job. You might not know what's going on, but if you're a teacher, good teaching is good teaching, It doesn't matter what program you're teaching in. And that is the way that I've sold myself to anyone. When I go for interviews, good teaching is good teaching. I don't try to copy what they do in their school. I tell them what I do. And I show them a vision of what I can be when I work in that school and what that school will become because of me working in that school. And so I tap into where they're going and align with them because I believe it's so as well. It's not a case of, branding anyway. It's who I am. I think if you're from the Caribbean and you are interested, it's right around us, even in the Caribbean. I mean, I know people who have just moved to Cayman. A good friend of mine has just moved to Cayman, not to work in the Cayman school system, but to work in the Cayman international school system. So I have a very good friend who just took over the principalship at Cayman International School. Now look at this. Jamaica has 3 international schools, which many people don't know. The school existed.
Excellent. Yep. And type in international schools. That's all they have to type in.
That's a good start. There are a number of agencies that recruit, but I know many people who just apply to schools directly. Just applying and the schools will just interview them on the phone. There are many ways. People know people. If you're in a school, if you have friends overseas, they will know that the school is recruiting. If you're doing a good job in the school will gladly recruit someone that because it costs them a lot of money to fly to Bangkok to do interviews, fly to London to do interviews. If they can get someone in without having to do that, then it's better for them. So teachers are at the advantage. Teachers are the handling this, And what I would say to teachers as well, my advice to teachers, if they are looking at this, is to negotiate. We don't get used. We're not used to that because we think, the job, this is the salary. But if you believe that you have value, sell your value. Don't focus on your price. So when people come and they say this is the amount, don't spend too much time looking at that. You maybe need to ask, would I be able to earn more here or there? Could you look at this, look at that? Bargain, ask the question. It's not rude to ask this question. It is acceptable to say that, I see your package, but, because what you will find in many schools is stratification of salaries. You'll find that some people are earning based on their nationalities. And until you're in it, you don't realize this. Some schools pay everyone the same, but some schools don't. If you're coming from Jamaica, they might pay less than if you come from the UK.
Understood.
So people need to delve into that when they are not too much of an arrogant kind of way, but ask these questions about salary as well.
We're at the end now, so just indulge me my rapid fire questions, all right?
Go.
So, life.
Great.
Okay, good. Travel.
Amazing. Everywhere in the world you can. Everywhere is open. Your choice.
Nice. Future.
Bright, very bright.
Okay,
very bright.
Yeah. And the last one, Instagram.
None. I don't have an Instagram.
Okay, good.
What I have Twitter. I am a big Twitter man.
Okay.
That's my real connection when you talk about my professional space, that's my space, It's at Mathter, so at Mathter.
Okay, so
I'm building a following there, yeah.
So if the people want to keep in touch with you, they can go to Twitter. One more time, tell them that one loud and clear.
It's at Mathter, so math, like my subject, Mathter. So math, sounds like master as well, if you think about it. Yes, so that's me, and that's my space when it comes to the social media for my professional connections,
Okay.
I'm at the moment working on building up a website as well.
Yes.
But it's not out there yet, MegelBarker.com, because I think in the future that will be a place where people can learn.
Okay, I like that. So, Megel, thank you so much. This was incredible show. And I know it will help so many persons. So thank you for coming on, all right?
Yeah, man, no problem, man.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you are inspired. You can find more helpful and motivational material at globalinsidersgroup.com. That is, insiders with an S. You can also keep in touch at Global Insiders on Instagram. See you next time, but remember, you can be your own superhero. Bye.